Chapter 6. The origin of creation, its different forms and its superior sense. Shrishti, Siddha Vedam and Vaishya Buddhi. O Swamiji, I am convinced that the state of creation is as what was described in the previous chapter. But there are varied forms of these creation, each different from the other. It was said in chapter 3 that this is due to griha vyathyasa, bodily differences, and that the same will be explained later on. I pray that the same may be explained to me in detail. I am eager to know all these. What are the different forms of creation? They are the human beings, the quadrupeds, the birds, the reptiles, the water beings, the ants, the insects and so many other things. Who are these human beings? We all, the Manushya, men. Why are we called Manushya? Because we are intelligent. The other animals? They are not intelligent like us. This is an absurd notion. It is we, the so-called human beings, who are wanting intelligence. All other beings except us are highly intelligent. The three common and main functions of all beings are 1. Eating, 2. Sleeping and 3. Copulating. We human beings, considering ourselves superior, ridicule the other beings like reptiles, birds, beasts and other insects including microbes. The other creatures all are thinking like us that they are also human beings. Really there is no special creation of Manushya, human beings, as such. The so-called human beings also are animals like bipeds and quadrupeds. There is no rhyme or reason in saying that we are the most intelligent of all beings. We take the instance of a parrot. We cage this creature and make it familiarize with us. It carefully picks up our voice and tries to imitate it. If we teach it anything, it tries to repeat it. Is this accomplished without any intellectual effort on the part of the parrot? While this creature is able to pick up our sounds and words, we are not able to pick up its sound and voice and imitate the same as it would ours. Swamiji. Animals and birds have no language. You should not say that. There are as many different languages as there are different species of creation. But we are not able to understand that. It is like this. You know only the language prevailing in your part of the country. Suppose a man from the north comes and speaks Hindustani, or an Englishman comes and speaks his tongue, or a man from Canara comes and speaks Canarese. Are you able to make out anything of what these respective individuals would speak? No. The reason? Because I am not acquainted with their languages. In the same manner the beings. What we call beasts and birds have also their own tongues. Because we have not studied them, we are not able to understand them. If one member from a herd or group goes astray, the others immediately detect the same and call for it. The strayed member responds to the call and runs back to the herd. Do we not see all these in the so-called birds and reptiles? Yes. We do see. So they too have their own systems of language. They can converse and communicate with each other in their own language. They can understand and obey it also. We do not understand it because we have not studied their systems of language. This is as stated before, just like our not being able to understand another human language that we are not previously acquainted with. But they pick up our language and respond. A buffalo or a bull accustomed to hear directions in one language, if taken to a country where a different language is spoken, easily picks up the purport of the directions given to it in this new language. Not only that, we capture the so-called wild animals such as lions, tigers, elephants, leopards etc., and tame and train them to do various tricks. They pick up what all we teach them. The training is given not in their language but only in our language. When they are capable of doing this, how can we underrate their intelligence? Yes. They have intelligence. Without that they would not be able to respond to our words. Moreover, we can prove that we are inferior in understanding to them, and they, whom we ordinarily say as inferior beings, possess superior powers of understanding. For example, suppose, if we want to study other languages, except our mother tongue, we ought to be taught the other languages in our tongue only. Then only we can understand it. If not, is it possible to understand and study? We cannot. Then, the above said animals and birds are taught in our languages only, and not in their language. So, who has got Vaishya Buddhi, superior sense? It is clear that the above beings have got the superior sense. Though we proudly think that we only got the superior knowledge, and we are the human beings, we are not able to study the other languages unless we are taught it in our tongue. But the other beings are taught in our language and they follow accordingly. We are not giving instructions in their language. Though we cooperate and work with them in several ways for a long time, we are not able to understand their speeches between themselves. Therefore those beings have got superior sense. You take a cattle from the shed to a far-off wilderness across a ferry on a dark night and leave it there. If it is not hurt or eaten up by any other animal, you will find the said animal returning home to its shed in the farmyard. Similarly, if you take a so-called intelligent man through the streets of a crowded city which he has not seen before and leave him at a certain place, do you think he would return home without the assistance of another man? He won't be able to come back without the help or assistance of another person. What is that due to? Did you not say that human beings are superior in intelligence and understanding and that we are such human beings? How is it then that a person taken to another place through a crowded street is not able to come home, without any help, whereas the so-called beasts are able to trace their way back, even if taken 10 or 20 miles distance away? Who showed them the way? Nobody showed them the way back. They came back all alone of their own accord. So who has got Vaishya Buddhi, superior understanding? The so-called animals. Who are the beings generally known to have this Vaishya Buddhi? Human beings. So who are really human beings? Those whom we popularly call mrigam, beasts and birds, etc. Who ought to be really called what is popularly called mrigam, animals. 7. Those who boast as human beings. The reason why these quadrupeds, who are generally called beasts, but who are the real human beings, possess superior powers than the so-called human beings is this. As described in the previous chapter, the subtle vayu, air, is the knowledge. The animals have this vayu always under their control. The inner control of the vayu that we have during our sleep is always possessed by these animals. In them the vayu that is the essence of knowledge is in perfect rhythm and harmony. When this factor, which is the knowledge, becomes so, all conditions come under its control. So with the control over vayu they are able to know by a higher perception from where they started, and they can smell back their way. In us the vayu does not flow inward in perfect rhythm and harmony. It gets scattered in various preoccupations, likes and dislikes. As a result our energy gets wasted. Due to that we get affectionate to this worldly affairs, i.e., our property, your property, my son, your child, my friend, enemy, foreigners, etc. We lose our superior powers, for example, the sense of smelling. This is the reason why we are not able to trace our way back home if we are left in a far-off wilderness. When we gather up all the scattered energy in one single stream we get complete control over vayu and we become enlightened, by which we get self-knowledge. Then only we can be called human beings. There is no separate creation of human beings as such. We become human beings only by our endeavor. It is only when we are twice born as human beings we get rid of our illusions and hallucinations and get salvation. For example, what is it that you seem to perceive while you are crossing a desert in hot sun? We seem to perceive water at a distance. If you go to the place where you thought you saw water, can you see the water? No. There won't be water there. When you thought there was water there, can you say that your thinking was correct? No. The reason why you thought you saw water is due to a blaze caused by the action of heat on the vast expanse of sand which is devoid of any shade of trees. In fact, there was no water when you went over to the place. This illusion appeared as a reaction when the energy that flowed out from you reflected on the blaze caused by the heat. This illusion is known as mriga buddhi, perception of beasts. So whatever gets this optical illusion are only beasts. Since this illusion is only a reflection of your own energy, when the same flowed out, if you can prevent this flow out, and concentrate the same within you in one single inward flow, you will get over such illusions. Then only you will become real Manushya, human. The significance of the word Manushya is one who does mananam. Mananam means discrimination of the good and bad, or finding out the eternity and temporary, also the everlasting and decaying. A person who has known reality is unperturbed. He is calm and serene. He does not allow himself to be dragged out. He does not waste himself in noisy words. Noisy words are not reality. For when we are in deep thinking, can we utter anything? No. When you are uttering something, can you have concentration of thought? No. Not only that, when we are in deep thought, somebody comes near us and makes a noise. Then what do you say? I say, please don't make noise. I am deeply thinking about something. So, when we are in deep contemplation, neither could we make any noise, nor could we tolerate any other person making any other noise. In the same manner, when we are in a state of mananam or contemplation of reality, we cannot make any noise. Our sound vibrations get merged within us. Then only we become real human beings. Even the English word human or man is indicative of this meaning. This is the state where the mind gets merged with the eternal reality. That is why it is often and on said that only human beings can have salvation. All the so-called men and women who indulge in hatred and fight with each other and waste their breath in so many ways are not human beings. They are only beasts. To become human beings, you must cast off your raga, likes, and dvesha, dislikes, and attain the state of inner harmony and composure. Till you attain this, you are only beasts. Swamiji. All that you have stated seem to be true. But how is it in nature we see so many different varieties of creations? There are the so-called human beings, and there are besides them the so-called beasts like elephants, lions, tigers, cows, goats and so on, and birds like kites, parrots, crows, peacocks etc., and reptile and water beings like snakes, frogs, fishes and many other tiny insects like ants and other microbes. You also said that in all these cases the creation is one and the same. But how did they become different in forms like these? Kindly explain these also to me. You see the nature in different forms, just like you see the human abodes in different sizes and shapes. Some abodes have stories, some don't have them. Some are square, some are octagon, some face east, some face west, some are terraced, some are roofed, some are built with bricks, some are built with mud, some are roofed with tiles, some are covered with leaves and so on. But who are living in these abodes? Human beings. The various forms that you see in nature are only the griha, abodes, of the Jiva. Just as there are various kinds of griha for the human beings to live in, like the bigger mansions with 4 stories and 8 stories, or the smaller habitations like the mud huts and houses, there are various kinds of bodies in nature like men, beasts, reptiles, birds, insects etc., for Jiva to live in. Now tell me who are residing in these bodies? Jiva. How many Jivas are there? Only one. So simply because of the differences in the nature of their bodies, can you say one is a superior kind of Jiva and another as inferior kind? No. We cannot say. Can there not be among those who dwell in humble mud huts men more intelligent than those who live in palaces? There can be. How is that? Can you tell me? I have moved with all sorts of men, such as the big Maharajas and Zamindars, and also with the poor people whom they call Palayas and Pariahs. I have seen among Palayas and Pariahs many respectable men who are more intelligent than these Maharajas and Zamindars. Not only that, there were saints like Nandanar and Pakanar among them whose ideas are followed by these so-called superior class even unto this day, as they are considered to be true and sound. Such poor people are greater than these high-class people. So, is intellect and wisdom a monopoly of any class? No. In what kind of habitations did this saints Pakanar and Nandanar live, and in what kind of habitations do these poor Palayas and Pariahs live? The Palayas and Pariahs whom I have come across are living in mud hovels covered with leaves. I have heard it said that Pakanar and Nandanar were also living in small huts built in wilderness. So, can you say only people living in particular homes are men of culture and wisdom? No. Now, hear me. The bodies, Jadam, of the so-called human beings are something like the 8-storied palaces. Those of the so-called beasts are something like the 4-storied palaces, and those of the so-called ants something like the huts. But can you say that the Jiva of the so-called ant living in a mud hole is different from the Jiva of the so-called man in the 8-storied palace? There is no difference. But where does the difference lie? In their habitations. By this differences in the habitations, is there any differences in the intellectual capacities? No. But the smaller beings do possess greater mental and physical powers than the bigger ones. I shall point out this to you. You have seen the tiny ants. No other beings have got such physical and mental capacities as these tiny ants living in small holes. You have seen an ant carrying a weight several times heavier than its own single-handed. Can any other being carry a weight like this heavier than its own weight single-handed? No. Not only that. These ants are very intelligent. You have seen that they work systematically, overcoming all obstacles, and store their food for future use with great foresight and imagination. Yes, I have seen. Now about their speed. Have you seen what happens to a person who runs along a narrow lane, infested with ants? They nimbly get on his body and sting him. So who has got more speed? Ants. Like this, various beings do various things with very great insight, caution, and forethought. We are also a kind of beings. We also do several things quite cleverly and intelligently, but beings like bees, spiders, and weaver birds and hornets do things which we can never do. Among these creatures, the behavior of bees is very interesting. These animals make big hives beneath suitable branches and store honey and live therein. Animals other than men make their abodes independently and without any trouble to other beings. But in the case of men, they are not only independent in constructing their houses but also destroy many animals and trees in the process. The houses thus constructed by man with the help of many men collapse in storm or rain, whereas the abodes constructed by bees etc. can withstand these destructive forces. It is because these little animals are capable of selecting suitable places for their nests. Therefore the knowledge of these animals seems to be more profound and wonderful. Further, you observe the behavior of birds. When the female bird is about to lay eggs, the male and the female pick up twigs, blades of grass etc. and build a nest. The female lays eggs and broods. The male keeps a watch. Then the eggs are hatched and the parent birds very affectionately pick up food for the young ones, knowing that the young ones are not yet capable of seeking food for themselves. In this manner they bring up their young ones until they are able to fly and seek food for themselves. When once they are able to fly and seek food for themselves, they kick out their young ones and are no more worried about them. Their relationship as parents and children ceases to exist. They all become members of one society. There is no distinction as father, mother, son etc., all are equal. Their intelligence and foresight are surprising. They had a great sense of responsibility in the matter of food supply and bringing up their young ones. They are capable of undergoing any amount of troubles and difficulties when their young ones are not able to look after themselves. But when the young ones once feel strong to look after themselves, they adopt a detached attitude and send them out. The young ones also cheerfully detach themselves from the parents and go out. Are these not within our observation? Yes, these are within our observation. We, the so-called human beings, are not able to look after our children, as these birds do with their young ones. The human mothers neglect their children and go after their own pursuits. They feed their children untimely and do not at all take any care of their health. They foolishly give unwholesome food to them and spoil their health and appetite. The mothers themselves don't take care of their health and infect their children with all their ailments. Look at the birds. Their young ones are always taken care of. When one of the parents goes out, the other keeps a watch over the young ones and looks after them carefully. In the case of human beings, even if one of the children is about 100 years old and their parents happen to be alive, they will be always thinking of providing for their children, however grown up they might be. The children also in the same way exhibit a pitiable anxiety for their parents. The human beings suffer a good deal by such absurdities of family affection like mere brutes. Such things also are within our everyday experience. Is it not so? Yes, it is so. We don't think about these things, and that is why we are ignorant, instead of getting enlightened. The main cause of our not thinking about these things is due to a false sense of pride that we are the most intelligent of the creations and that all other beings are inferior to us. We think like this because of our foolishness. If we see a thing or hear about a thing or have a conception of anything, and if we reason out about them properly, we can arrive at the truth. Without doing that, we are obsessed by the false notion that we are superior to all creations and all the rest are below us. ISWARA, God, is Jiva. This God resides in the heart of all beings and manifests himself through the mechanism of Maya in all beings. God is in all beings. There is only one God and there is only one kind of divine energy for all beings. We think our energy is different from the energy of other beings because we have not understood the truth. When we know the truth, we could see the identity of this energy with the self. At this stage, false pride and likes and dislikes vanish away and we realize the self. I have still a doubt in what you have stated. You said there is no difference between one being and another. Then there are what is known as the Purusha, male, and Stri, female. Can we say that there is no difference like this? What have you understood from what I have stated before? I said that all is of one energy. Then, can there be any difference of one being from another? But I shall explain to you what is the real significance conveyed by the term Purusha and Stri. Can you tell me who is a Purusha and who is a Stri? We are all Purusha and the ones that gave birth to us are the Stri. Suppose from the beginning the world knows us as Stri, then by what name will we be called? Will the world say that we are Purusha and not Stri? If that be so, we will be called females and females, males. People do not understand what is the original significance of Purusha. This term acquired a different meaning and people began to follow this popular meaning without thinking deeply what the real significance of the term is. Can you now tell me what this term Purusha means? One who resides in a puram, habitation, is a Purusha. Where are the beings beginning from an ant to an elephant residing? In their respective habitations. What are these habitations? The homes that we live in, and the respective coverts in the case of animals, wherein they take their shelter. But if you don't have a jiva, of what use are these homes or habitations? Can there be any use at all? There won't be any use whatsoever. What is the puram meant for? It is meant for us to live in happily. Without jiva, life, can we live happily? No. Why not? Because we don't have jiva. So, who want this puram to live happily? Jiva. Which is the puram wherein jiva resides? This jadam, body, that we see. So by what name should we call this jadam, body? Puram. When the Jiva is concentrated and made to vibrate within without any wastage outside, it becomes the Purusha. This Purusha is Shiva. This aspect of the Purusha is like this. A man gets into his house and closes all the doors and windows and sits inside. Can he see, hear, or know anything outside? No. Suppose he opens the door and comes out and sits on the veranda, can he not see, hear and know what takes place outside? Yes. Why did he not see, hear or know when he was sitting inside? Because he retreated inside his house and shut all his doors and windows and sat quiet. But when he came out into the veranda, what happened? He becomes aware of all that takes place outside. When was it that he actually knew what was happening outside? Was it when he was inside or was it when he was outside? Only when he was outside. How can that be? When he comes out, who is it there in the house to know that he severs his connection with the house? But in the example given, the person is still on the veranda. He has not left the house. Can you say that he has left the house, when he is still in the veranda? No. Can he be said to be inside the house either? No. So he was at a place which was neither inside nor outside, and so he was able to know, hear or see what was taking place outside. If he leaves the house or if he is inside the house, he cannot see anything about what is taking place outside that house. Now in this manner tell me, where was our Jiva, life, when we were sleeping? Our Jiva was inside us. You wake up and see all these and hear all these. Then where is the Jiva? Our Jiva is outside. If our Jiva is outside, could we see or hear or know about the things that take place around us? No. Why not? Suppose our Jiva is outside, what would happen? We will become savam, dead bodies. If our Jiva is merely inside us, could we have known anything outside? No. How is it so? Because our Jiva is in its natural place without spreading itself outside. Where does it stay? It stays in its puram, house. So what is this Jiva called when it is inside its own puram, house? It is called Purusha. How did it become so? Because the Sakti of Jiva, energy of life, was concentrated within, without any flow outside. Who are those who can control their energy like this? Purushas, realized beings or Superman. Who are those who cannot control their energy like this? They are those whose Jiva is neither in the inner side nor in the outer side. When is it that you said you perceive the affairs outside? When I wake up and when my Jiva is neither inside me nor outside me. Now hear me. When our Jiva is concentrated inside and rests calmly, it is Purusha, but when the Jiva wakes up from this rest and vibrates out, it becomes Shiva Sakti, the energy of Shiva. This is what is known as Purusha Prakriti. This is the flow out of the Purusha from its abode as Sakti, energy. Purusha is the Jiva, life. The Sakti, the energy, is the Strai. This Strai is Prakriti, nature. Purusha Prakriti is the external flow of the Purusha from within. This Prakriti is Sakti, energy. This is the Dame, Mother Nature. It is from this mother that all of us originated. So who is our mother? Our mother is this Sakti, the Maya. Who is Jiva? Shiva. When Sakti is our mother, who ought to be this Shiva to us? Shiva must be our father. So, Shiva became the father. This father is Purusha and Sakti became the mother. This mother is Strai. So can we call anybody Purusha or Strai, male or female, as it is popularly known? Purusha and Strai are father and mother. So, in the common parlance we are neither Purusha nor Strai, so what are we? We are then neither male nor female. T. What is that person called? Dis. Napumsaka, neuter. T. What does this napumsaka indicate? Dis. That it is neither male nor female. T. Now hear me carefully. The Jiva, that is the Purusha, the Sivam within us, when moves out becomes Sakti. That Sakti is the mind. It is from this mind that the neuter ego, namely the I, originates. For example, suppose we sleep in a room familiar to us. Suddenly we wake up from that sleep. We begin to grope about the walls in a rather unfamiliar way. That is because when we woke up the Shiva, the Purusha, suddenly came out as Sakti. That Sakti was the mind, and then there was only the mental factor. So we were not able to recognize things immediately. In order to recognize things there must be the neuter, the ahamkara, ego. It is this neutral factor that discriminates and differentiates. The Sakti, that is the mind, appeared divided only through the medium of this neutral principle, which is the ahamkara. Without this ahamkara, the I, there is nothing. Whatever we see and hear are all from this ahamkara. This ahamkara is the Brahma, creator. It is Brahma that creates with the energy called mind. This is called Brahma Shrishti, creation of Brahma. Without this Brahma there is no creation as such. This Brahma is always in yajna. Yajna is yaga, the sacrificial fire. The yaga kundam, the pit where the sacrificial fire is lit, is in Brahmadya, middle of the brow. This Brahmadya is the eye of fire called Sushumna. The Brahma, that is the egoistic I, sits by this fire and performs homa, sacrifice, casting his volitions in the sacrificial fire. The world that we see around us is the smoke that comes out of this sacrifice. This world is something like smoke. We are engulfed and lost in this smoke. So we are not able to distinguish the Stri from Purusha. When the reality of this smoky world is revealed, everything becomes clear. If the smoke should clear the things that are cast into, the fire must be burnt out completely. This is accomplished only by blazing forth the fire. When once the fire is so blazed, you get the light, prakasam. In this light, enlightenment, you can discern the mind, the source of all activities. When once the mind is discerned you can control the same, and when you control the same you become the real Purusha or the Superman. Till then you are only a neutral entity. Dis, beloved Guru. It was said that our mother is Maya and that Maya is the Sakti. But in the world ladies conceive and deliver children. Such ladies are known as mothers. How is this to be reconciled? Kindly explain this also. T. Who gives birth? Dis, ladies. T. What was the cause of their giving birth to children? Dis, their conception. T. What is the cause of their conception? Dis, samyoga, cohabitation. T. Can there be conception without samyoga? Dis, no. T. In cohabitation how does conception take place? Dis, conception takes place because of the sukla, vital fluid. T. Without sukla can there be conception? Dis, no. T. So what is the sukla? Dis, this sukla is the bijam. T. What do you mean by bijam? Dis, it is the seed. T. Without this bijam, seed, can there be anything? Dis, no. T. You have some seeds. You want to raise a crop. What should you do? Dis, I must plow the field, level the ground and sow the seed. T. If you sow the seed elsewhere will it sprout out? Dis, yes. T. No, the seed will sprout out only in a congenial soil. Did it sprout out from the granary where it was stored? Dis, no. T. Suppose you throw the seed on a rock or in a well or in a tank or in a river or in the ocean, will it sprout out? Dis, no. T. Why not? Dis, because the seed is not sown in the proper place. T. So the seed will never sprout out unless there is a congenial soil. It sprouts out in the fields prepared for it and grows up and yields the stalks full of grain. But how do you speak of these stalks? Do you speak of them as belonging to the plant or as belonging to the soil? Dis. We speak of them as belonging to the plant. T. Did not this sprout out from the field? So why do you call this as belonging to the plant? Dis. If we don't sow the seed we won't get the plants. So it is from the seed that these stalks of grain come out. That is why we speak of it as belonging to the plant. T. What was the field for? Dis. Only for cultivating the seed. T. So you cannot say that the crop is a product of the soil for the mere reason that the seed was cultivated there. Dis. No. T. So from where should we say that the crop came out? Dis. From the seed. T. So who gave birth to the crop? Dis. It was the seed that gave birth to it. T. So this seed never sprouts out unless it is sown in a proper place. Not only that. The place must be plowed, leveled and prepared for it. When the seed is sown on this soft soil the seed sprouts out and the tender plants takes root in the soil. Then the plants grow up freely and hives their yield. If the soil was not soft but hard then it would not have been possible for the seeds to sprout out and the plants to take root. So the soil must be proper. In the same manner you should consider that the part of the body where conception takes place in women is the soil where suklam, vital fluid, falls. In no part of the body except there could you throw the seed and get issues. Dis. That is so. We cannot get issues from any other part of the body. T. Why not? Dis. The seed must be sown in the proper place. T. The sex act is the preparation of the soil for sowing the seed, and when the same is so prepared the vital fluid in the form of eggs as mentioned in chapter 4 is discharged in that field. The field also becomes roomy enough to accommodate the growing seedling. After the growth is completed the issues come forth. Such being the case, can you say that the woman gave birth to the child? Dis. No. T. Why not? Dis. Because the child came out of sukla. Without this seed there cannot be any conception. T. So the real garbha, conception, is the storage of sukla by the Purusha in his mansion without any wastage. Without this seed, can there be any procreation? Dis. No. T. So who is it that gets pregnant? Dis. The Purusha, the Superman. T. The so-called Purusha pregnant with sukla, vital fluid, delivers the seed in the soil prepared for its reception by sexual cohabitation. It is from this seed that the beings, called in nature as human, originated. Out of these the so-called male forms come out on the seed contributed by the male species and the female forms come out of the seed contributed by the female species. Dis. O teacher. Is there sukla in woman? If there is seed in them how does it get into their wombs? T. Yes. Women too have the seed. In women there is an organ which is the counterpart of the male organ through which the seed comes out. The womb is separate from this organ. It opens with the help of vayu at the time of cohabitation and the whole place becomes soft and moist. In that place the seed of either male or female falls. This seed attains growth and finally comes out as babies, in the form of males and females. Dis. It is said just how that the male seeds become male babies and the female seeds become the female babies. But how is it sometimes that the female babies get the color of their male parents and male babies get the color of female parents? T. It is like this. During cohabitation if the male is thoroughly absorbed in a mental imagery of the female, this imagery gets reflected in his sukla. In the same manner if the female is absorbed in a mental imagery of the form of the male this imagery gets reflected in her sukla. These reflections give the shapes and forms to the children. The cause is the mind. If there is no mental imagery there cannot be any forms. This imagery arises in the mind. The sukla itself is of the mind. It is with this sukla that beings are created. The creation consists in giving forms. These forms are our mental imagery. This is how the children acquire a look and color entirely different from their parents. For example, take the instance of the cohabitation of a horse. A beautiful male horse is placed in front of a female horse and then the eyes of the latter are closed. Then a donkey is allowed to cohabit with the female horse, which imagines that the male horse that is standing in the front is in union with it. When the donkey's semen is secreted, the mental imagery of the female horse is reflected in it and thus the seed falls in the womb. Then the donkey is removed and the bondage of the eyes of the female horse is removed. Due to this mental imagery, the offspring becomes identical to the male horse that was placed in the front. Although the seed is that of a donkey, the mental imagery influences the formation of the offspring. Therefore form is the thought. I understood what you say. But, is it possible to give birth to a baby either by the seed of a male only or by that of a female only? It is not possible. Females have suratha, a kind of juice, blood and semen. During cohabitation suratha and blood are secreted first. If the womb is open, these will fall in it. Then the semen, either that of the female or that of the male, whichever secretes first, falls into the womb in the form of an egg as mentioned in the 4th chapter. If the female semen falls into the womb after that of the male, it also becomes a child. If it does not fall in the form of an egg, it will fall in the blood and will be mixed with it. That is why male children have no softness for the skin. In the same manner, when the semen of the female falls into the womb first and then the man's semen falls after that in the form of an egg, that also becomes a child. But, if the male's semen falls into the blood, unlike in the form of an egg, it also becomes mixed with it. The female issues are originated in this manner. That is why, the body of the female is very soft. O teacher! Is not the semen of male and female alike? When the male's semen is mixed with the blood, the body of the female issue from this is said to be soft, and when the female semen is mixed with the blood, the body of the male issue is said to be rough. What is the reason for this? Male semen is thin and female semen is thick, and it is due to this fact that we find the difference. O teacher! Why is female semen so thick and the semen of the male so thin? During cohabitation 3 things are secreted in females. First comes suratham, a kind of juice, secondly sranatham, a kind of blood, and thirdly the semen, which is the core of our being. As these 3 secrete separately, the semen becomes thick. In the case of males, these 3 form together and consequently it becomes soft and loose. But, when the semen of males and females are blown and strengthened inside, it becomes mani, strong drops. This is known as rasamani. Rasamani means semen. When we blow and store this up, this process is known as rasavatham. Rasam is semen, Vedam is air. Therefore when the life energy, which flows out and gets exhausted, is restored inside and blown up and down, and the semen is stored up, we get janma saphalya, the purpose of our life, i.e. liberation.